Oops.
Oh, did we lose Steve?
Nope, I'm here.
Yeah, okay. All right. Up close and personal. Hey, everybody. We are now live on several platforms, multi-streaming the Modern Day Alchemists on the Wisdom platform, as well as on YouTube, Facebook. I actually added X, Twitter for the first time this time around, and LinkedIn. So if you can't find us, that's not our fault. That's yours. Welcome to episode 31 of the Modern Day Alchemists. Thank you, Ron Perry, Noble Ron, for already chiming in and being here with us. So those that are tuning in now or later, you can, not later, those are tuning now live can add to the chat, the live chat, and we'll respond as we are able. We can actually put some good stuff up here on the screen. And first, we're going to start by introducing my two co-hosts, Kristen Brown and Stevo Hays. And here on this last Friday of the year, Kristen Brown, let everybody know where you are, where you're broadcasting from, and what you do, my friend.
Kristen, do you want to go first?
Yes. You want the beautiful one to go first, right?
Kristen first. Yes,
Yeah,
go.
Somebody go.
I'll go.
Kristen, why don't you just show your book right away instead?
Oh, God. You know, I don't even have it. You guys can see it, right?
Oh, my.
There it is.
There it is, right there.
Right there. There
It's
it is.
tiny.
I don't know. I started reading it again.
All right.
And every time I read it, I go, oh my God, this book is so good. I love my book so much. Anyway, my name is Kristen Brown.
Tell the audience about it.
I'm a spiritual empowerment author, healer, and mentor, and I help people upgrade their relationships in life by going within and resetting the programming that is keeping them stuck.
And tell us about your book that you're reading again.
Oh, the book that I'm reading again. It's called The Recovering People Pleaser, A Spiritual Guide to Reclaim Your True Worth and Attract the Love You Deserve. And this book is founded on my life and how I did not have what I believe is called true worth in place. And once I reset that energetic foundation of my worthiness, that's when I was able to attract and create the healthiest relationships in my life. So what I do is take people through that process. The first couple chapters of the book are the what and the why of people pleasing. And the rest of the book is the how to heal it. Because when people understand the what and the why, the how to makes sense. Instead of just throwing the how to people, it's like, this is what's happening. And so it makes logical sense why this is the cure.
Very good. Awesome. Congratulations on birthing that book.
For sure.
That was about 6 months ago you went published that?
It was March of 23. So
fantastic.
8 months.
So
I don't know.
In a couple of days, that will be last year. But congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Isn't that a great feeling to read your own words or listen to your own voice and agree with it and go, man, that was really good? I mean, because oftentimes it's easy to get the other, but it's a good thing when you read your own words and go, wow, I said that. That was pretty good, You know
what's interesting is that I forget often what I write in books because I do a lot of channeling as I'm doing it. It's me, but the words are flowing in flow state, so it comes through me. And then, when I'm coaching a client and that client has read it and I'll start telling them a story and they just kind of have this look on their face. I'm like, did I say this in the book? They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, that's right, I did. So it is fun to go back and reread it. I'm about halfway through right now. And I just want to let everybody know who might be interested in this book that it's a very easy read. And what I mean is not elementary. It's that I don't use a bunch of fancy words and all this psychological babble that confuses people. And that's what I feel is my gift as a creator, as a coach, is that I make things very, very simple and digestible for people so they really understand it. It's not like you're going back and rereading the same line 10 times trying to figure out what I said. So yeah. It's great.
Yeah, now just to capitalize on that a little bit, it's easy to read in terms of how the verbiage that you use, but it's very deep. There's lots of really deep things. And so easy read, not as in light. It's a deep read, but it is very understandable and accessible. So great job, Kristen. Great job.
And I think it's great the reason why you wrote it too. It wasn't a money maker for you, even though you probably make money off it, but you wrote it to help people. And you have a skill set, Kristen, and you have a heart. And you are using it to change people's lives. And in an area of people pleasing that you have found out that it's more than, we talk about people pleasing. We think it's a scale of 1 to 10. It's a 2 or 3, but people pleasing, it really affects us. And I get excited when I think about the amount of people's lives that you've changed, not just through your coaching, but through your book that you've written for those that can't afford coaching or don't know you will never will get your coaching, but they can read a book that they can buy online. And I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And back at you to both of you. You're both changing lives every day. Even the people we don't know we're helping.
Thank you.
I'd recommend too.
Too much holiday cheer though, because Joe's background is like, is that or is that just me?
No, I don't know what to do with my background. It's my green shirt is making the green screen all funky.
Oh, you're fine. You look good.
I do this.
Well, as long as we can see you, Joe, we don't care about the background.
You look, I got no arms.
Got no arms. Yeah.
Different with that. Can you do the regular background?
Yeah, let's see if I can do that.
I like your regular background.
All right, while I'm doing that, Stevo, introduce yourself to the audience.
My name is Stevo Hays, and a lot like Kristen, I'm a messenger. I'm here to help people with the message that will help people get their happy. I'm here to navigate, activate, and then advocate your happy life. It's something that everyone is looking for. Everybody wants to be happy, but there's so many people that never ever hit that. And really, it's a matter of perspective. It's how life coaches need life coaches. Therapists need therapists. Psychiatrists need psychiatrists. It's not good for us to go through this life alone. We weren't made to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. That's impossible to do. So a lot like Kristen as well as Joe, I'm a messenger. I do it through podcasting. I do it through live speaking. I do it through a lot of online stuff. In the process of writing a book myself right now, but that process has been going on for a really long time. So, but that's who I am. I'm in the Happy Life Studios out here in the Pacific Northwest, out in the Seattle area. And Happy New Year, everybody. I hope your Christmas was wonderful. I hope your holidays were happy, your Christmas was merry. And now it's time for the new year to come. And by the way, Joe, tell us who you are too. There's probably people that no one ever asks you to introduce yourself every week. I think about it every week, but I always get sidetracked by the time I don't say it.
Before you go, Joe, I want to say this.
Yes.
The reason why I like you in that background, because that is really an embodiment of Joe.
Yeah.
So thinking that you need to change it into something else, it's like, no, this is you, bro. You can even explain what that is if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm Joseph MoJOE McCarthy, for those that have not met me before. And I am on a journey like the other two beautiful hosts I've got here of understanding who I am and how I'm built and how do I navigate this life in the best possible way. And that's a learning process every single day. But as Kristen pointed out, I'm in a music room at the university where I work. And this last semester, I was asked to head up a choir. And music is a huge part of my identity. I've been playing some instrument since 4th grade and singing a lot before that. And in fact, those who work with me know that I may bust out into a song at any time for any reason. The president's assistant who retired recently after 40 years at the university, much longer than I was here, she was asked, what are you going to miss most about being at Hope? And she says, I'm going to miss Joe breaking out into song for no reason.
On. How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But music is the language of the soul, and it's a great way to share what you're feeling and making connections with each other. So I may break out into song at any time for any reason. But my heart, like my friends here, is to take what I'm learning along the way about life and about my spirituality and about my understanding of my emotional being, and how do those things integrated, and how do I learn in this process to navigate life at a better level, at a higher level, not just to be an achiever, but to experience life in the fullness that it has to offer. And I think it's so true. And I read this, I hear this a lot. It's so true. And I'm a big student of self-improvement and of personal growth and development. I listen to a lot of teachers, and many of them say the same things in different words. And that is that if we aren't intentional about our growth, then we will revert by nature to habits and patterns. And the part I think that really motivates me is I heard someone say, and I don't even know who it was, that we can live 40, 50, 60 years, or we can live the same year 40, 50, 60 times.
Wow.
And I don't want to be the latter, right? And I want to do what I can to take what I'm learning and share this so that others too may just be able to pick an idea, or it'll prompt something in their heart or their mind, bring some awareness so that they too can make the changes that they want to make, rather than let life happen to them. Be the creator, the navigator, the captain of your ship. And so
say that again, Joe. That is so good. You can live for 40, 50 years, or say
or
that
you can
again.
live 1 year 40, 50, 60 times. And unfortunately, I know a lot of people who have done that. And now at age 57, I can look back in my life and say, there are a lot of years that I just let roll in. You know, I wasn't really making any choices to control things or to navigate or to grow. But those days are past, and I've learned that's not the way that I want to live. And so this is Modern Day Alchemist really is an invitation to anybody and everybody to say, hey, let's grow together. Come on, let's go. Ready, set, grow. Because growth is really the one identifying factor of life. Life is identified by growth. That's why we all have this desire, I think, deep down inside for something more, because it's not that we just want to be the top and the best. It's because we are growing, and as a growing living organism, we desire to expand, and our spirits want to gather more information and apply it and to see what is possible. I think many of us don't reach our potential because we don't even believe that it's possible, and that's really what slows us down. That's actually a great segue into what we're going to talk about today, because it is December 29th. It's the last Friday of the year, and we're moving into a new year. And yes, a new year 2024, that's arbitrary. Hello, Artistry. Thank you for joining us. Nice to have you here, my friend from X. He actually invited me into his band. So we're talking about the music earlier. So They heard me playing trumpet on X and said, "Hey, would you join the band?" So I'll be recording here sometime soon. Anyway, that's in the future. Well, we're talking about the future, right? We're right here on the cusp at the end of 2023, moving to 2024. And yes, the number is arbitrary. However, the planet has gone through a revolution, right? We have made a circumnavigation of the sun. So, as I like to say, even if you sat on your couch all year, you've traveled tens of thousands of miles. So you are a journeyer. But rather than just letting life happen to us, how do we learn from the past, celebrate our victories, understand that we have some input in what the future will look like, and set sail, right? Set navigation, set a destination, a course, and then correct along the way. So I'm going to start with Kristen, because Kristen has this framework that she was shared with us earlier about how she helps her clients navigate what we're talking about, how to take the past and use the ideas and the celebration, the wins from the past in the present moment to set for a better future. So Kristen, jump in there, and then we'll riff together with you.
So one thing I learned on my journey is, as I was doing the healing work and not really knowing what I was doing, but every time that I had some sort of win, or I started to see an upgrade or an up level in myself and in my development, I gave myself a hug. I literally gave myself a hug, and I patted myself on the back, like really vigorously, like, great job, like you would with your child or your dog or your, whoever. I just really celebrated that. And I realized along the way that had so much impact, because when we literally touch ourselves like that with a good feeling thought, what's happening is we are solidifying that in our brain. And that starts to really reset our foundation. And even so much so that one of my clients, who I don't coach anymore, but I did for a couple of years, she teaches that now to her friends. She's always like, pat yourself on the back, give yourself a hug, because it was so impactful for her as well. So one of the things that I do with my clients often is, like, if we're moving along, because a lot of times we do not realize how much we're growing, because it is like a whisper on the wind. It is so gentle. It just kind of floats in. And sometimes the changes are so minute that amongst the hustle and bustle of our life, or the overthinking, or the fears, or just the stuff and the stress, we may not even notice, even though something is changing. So periodically with a client, I will stop them in one of our sessions, and I will say, I want you to go back to 6 months. And it depends on the client and where they're at and how much I've seen them grow, because sometimes they don't see themselves grow. And I'll say, go back 6 months, a year, and I'll say, okay, where were you right then? And oftentimes this happens when they've done, made a major breakthrough somehow in their life, where they set a boundary or had a conversation or whatever. And I'll say, would you have been able to do this a year ago? And they're like, no way. I'm like, do you see how you're growing? So that's one of the ways I do it. But another one of the ways that I do it is if they just feel like, when is this going to get better? And they start to get bummed out, because a lot of times people want to go to 0 to 100. And the healing path is not like that. And we just need to understand that from go, It is not like that. It's teeny tiny baby steps, sometimes little half steps, sometimes it's 5 forward and 1 back, but it's a progression, a very, very slow progression. So when they start that ish, I say, okay, let's stop and go back to where you were. And we revisit where they were and the wins along the way. And every single time you're like, thank you so much. Wow, I didn't realize, I can't believe, blah, blah, blah. So talking about coaches needing coaches, I recently got a book for Christmas. My son gave it to me. It's called Be Seen by Jen Gottlieb. And she does something really similar. And she calls it the Badass List. And so I'm reading through this book and I'm like, okay, what's this all about? And the Badass List is going through your life, like your entire life, really. But we can do it for just this year because we're kind of aiming on that. But you go back through your life and you list all the times in your life that you were badass, whether it's something as small as you even got out of bed one morning because you had been depressed. I mean, I'm talking, these things take courage, they take strength, and people minimize the heck out of these things. They're like, well, what's the big deal? Everybody gets out of bed. It's like, no, but this was tough for you. So we're going back to the times we're proud of, the times that we showed some degree of badassery, the times that we have, chosen faith over fear, whatever it might be. And we go through that list, and you have now just created your own list of badassery. So the reason why she's talking about this is because a lot of times people fall into self-doubt, into imposter syndrome and these type of things where they don't think they're enough or they can't do it. But when you make that list, you have literally physical proof of going back and saying, oh my gosh, this is how amazing. So this particular client, I took through this yesterday, she listed 30 things. And at the end of it, she goes, thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for bringing this to our coaching session, because I've really come a long way. And I'm like, yes, because I'm always cheering for my clients. I'm a huge cheerleader. I'm always like, wow, you kick ass. Can't believe you did that. Those type of things. But we really need to do this for ourselves. So what I am inviting people to do is make your own badass list. And it can even just be from this year. I did it verbally with my husband last night. And I'm like, I finished my book, and these things sound small, but they were big things because my book had problems in publishing based on layout and stuff. Like, finished my book, printed my book, did this. And there's some personal things that have to do with loved ones and family members that I won't mention. But there was like, I'm just standing there in awe, looking back on the movie of this year. And it was so incredibly beautiful. So there's my list. Then I had coffee with someone recently, and this person is struggling with anxiety and depression. And they said, this is the worst year of my life, literally the worst year of my life. And so, but this person still went to work every day, was meditating, reading, doing these things, so sometimes it appears like these small things don't matter, but the most important thing is you're still here. Mm-hmm. Even amongst the struggle, you are still here. And I wanted to mention a couple things before I pass the thing. One is that there's a residual effect from this, because just going through that badass list last night with my husband, this morning, I have a different energy about me. Excuse me. And I'm like, what is this energy about? Because I'm very in touch with myself. So I was like, and I think it's because I celebrated myself last night. That I was like, great job, Kristen. So there's this residual effect that we may not even know is there. And this is where faith comes in. We just have to have faith that these things do something, right? Because a lot of people are like, that's not going to do anything. You don't know until you try it.
Right.
The second thing the last thing I was going to say is that, Joseph, you were saying, I forgot how you were wording it, the repeating the same year 46 times or whatever. And I think you said we're wanting something better. Like there's this part inside of you that wants something better. And the thing is that we're quite literally, as spiritual beings here, we're designed that way.
Yes, that's right.
We're designed to grow. That is why we're here. This is a journey, a lesson. It is about soul's growth, and we can either choose that or not. The problem is that when we decide not to, typically we're living in some type of fear that is holding us back. And this is where that shift just from fear to love, just from fear to hope, just from fear to faith, and just to try something different is going to yield us a different result. But we must be willing to shift the old mindset, even if it's just a little bit, just to start to go a different direction so that we can start to have a different result.
It's so funny too, because I love what you're saying. Celebrate the little things, Pat yourself on the back. We don't do that. We always say, well, that's just a little thing. Getting out of bed in the morning to someone who's depressed takes more energy and more courage, I might add, than a person who is doing well, than a person who is in a different situation that doesn't face the same struggles that person is currently facing. And so we think it's a little thing to get out of bed, but not if you've ever experienced depression. Getting out of bed is not a little thing. We're comparing, it's like apples to oranges, so to speak. We on the conversely, what we tend to do is the things that we think that we're screwing up on, that we're making a big deal about, are usually little things too. So we do a little thing wrong and we get all bent out of shape.
Yeah.
We do a little thing right and we never pat ourselves on the back. We say,
That's
oh,
right.
that's just a little thing. Well, then be equal across the board. If you're going to freak out because you do a little thing wrong, then freak out in a positive way that you did a little thing right. Right.
Yeah.
And if you're going to say, oh, that was just a little thing, I just got out of bed, then when you blow it today, realize that's just a little thing too. I mean, but I would go the opposite end. Not just equally. I would say celebrate your victories, right, in a big way, and minimize your defeats in a small way, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. Cecilia Grace is here in the chat, so she's here live, and for a long time, more than a year, she did a daily show on wisdom called Kudos, where she just invited anybody and everybody to come up and share your wins, big or small. Didn't have to be, some giant milestone. Just, hey, what did you do today? Something today that you want to celebrate about yourself? And the community would come in little by little and share these little things. And it was fantastic, especially when it was consistent. So over 300, 400 days, maybe Cece can jump in here and tell us how many days she did this in a row. Unbelievable. She just showed up, and it wasn't like she was teaching anything other than she was modeling how powerful it is to recognize and celebrate your victories, big and small, every single day. And boy, I got to tell you, I jumped in as often as I could. I found I was making connections. I was reminding myself that, hey, today wasn't a complete loss, right? Today wasn't all about that one time when I made the bad decision. There was hundreds of other opportunities when I actually made a good decision as well. And I would want to throw in here as well the power of journaling. Now, journaling, the word itself, sometimes people cringe at it because it sounds like it's work, it's too much trouble. I'm not a journaler, whatever our excuses are. But I think one of the powers of journaling in this particular discussion right now is that we can go for a long time, and when we look back, it's easy to forget the little things that happened along the way. But if you're willing and able to try just writing down, don't even use the word journaling if that sounds too overwhelming, just writing down that list, the badass list that she was talking about, that Kristen was talking about each day, even if it's just three things that I did today that I'm proud of, that I'm so glad I did, that went well, so that our focus, right? This is a matter of focus. Our focus is on what we did right, what we're so grateful for. I mean, this is a gratitude practice, among other things, is remembering and celebrating that the day wasn't a complete loss. Yes, we all have challenges, and yes, we don't always make the right decision, but that doesn't mean the whole day or the whole year or my life is all a throwaway, is all a loss, right? It's by celebrating, memorializing, right? A journal is a memorial. It's because you get to write down, and then you look back and you say, it wasn't just three things in 2023. It was three things every single day for 365 days. That's 1,000 things, right? And it's easy to remember and focus in on the failures, but even the failures, if we look back with the right lens, we can say that failure wasn't a loss, it was a learn. Yeah. And I've said this many times before, and I'm telling myself as much as I'm telling anybody, is that when I start framing my life as a win-lose or a situation as a win-lose, that's not healthy. The healthy way is to say it's a win or learn proposition. So if I lose, it's not the end of the world. I actually learned something, and win or learn, that's a win-win on both sides of the equation. So even in this badass list that you're writing, hopefully every day, it's not just everything I did right, but in the things that I made a mistake and I didn't do it right, what did I learn? Because that is a victory. That's a win right there.
Right. And I would like to, well said. And I would give a recommendation here that you have a badass list, that you actually write it down, because
it's real.
even if you did one a day, you've got almost 400 things, but you start writing down the things you did well. You're not going to remember 1,000 things, but you
No.
have it in a list in a $1 notebook that you bought at the Dollar Tree or whatever. You just wrote it down. Don't worry about being formal or dating it or anything. I guarantee you read through that list, you're going to feel like Kristen felt this morning when she woke up because she celebrated herself last night. And so the 2 recommendations I have are, number 1, just get a piece of paper, if nothing else, or use your phone or something.
Use your phone,
Yeah, record it somehow. But the other recommendation I would do is I would do it at night before I go to bed. Like Kristen, you said you woke up and weren't even sure why you were happy, right? You weren't
Well, I
sure why
always
you
wake
had
up
energy.
happy, but like I felt especially kind of
Energy.
charged. Yeah.
And you weren't even, at first, you weren't even sure why you felt charged. It just happened naturally to you because before you went to bed that night, one of the last things you did was you celebrated your wins. You hugged yourself. You pat yourself on the back. And just imagine if we sell a thing called a happy journal, and it's simply you write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. Badass list is the same thing. Imagine the last thing that you think about before you go to bed is what you did well that day, not what you did wrong, not where you blew it. Imagine what your sleep is going to be like. Imagine what you're going to, not saying that it's some magical solution, magical potion, whatever. But if the last thing you do at night before you go to bed is think about something positive, particularly what you did well. And I guarantee you, no matter how bad you think you are, no matter how big of a loser you think you are, number 1, that's a wrong perspective. It's not true at all. But I guarantee you did 3 things right today. I guarantee you did at least 3 things right today. And I think we have to train ourselves. That's the other thing. When we begin to write it down, we start going, oh, wait, what am I going to write down? We sit there and we don't think about it. And all of a sudden we go, during the daytime, we go, oh, I'm going to write that down tonight, my badass list. I can write that down. And now you become alert to all day the successes that you're doing, the things that you're doing for other people, the things that you're doing positively. And now it's not just a nighttime thing. Becomes an all day thing. And you want to talk about having a badass year. You get a badass list leads to a badass year. And I would just throw this in to end all this segment of what I'm going on my diatribe here. But this whole idea of this is going to be the best year ever, just stop. Why do you want to make this better than last year? How about you just make this a badass year, right? Who cares if it's better than last year? Every year in America, we are so performance driven. Everything has to be bigger, better, faster, stronger, right? Don't worry about competing. Now you got a competition. No matter how good your year is, if it's not better than last year, it doesn't work, right? So I would just say, instead of concentrating on having the best year ever, concentrate on having a good year, having a badass year, having a great year. What kind of a year do you want to have? Instead of, don't compete yourself to all the other years and all the other people. Just have a year that you enjoy, a year that you take what comes your way and you do the best with it.
Yeah. And I just want to mention this on the tail of that we have this thing inside of our brain called the reticular activating system. And what that is that's going to recognize what we focus on. So if we're focusing on our good, on the places that we're winning, and it doesn't mean we don't recognize the places that we're not doing so hot or we make a mistake. That's serving too in another day. But I got a weird hair here. Which side of my head? There it is. But if we focus on, if we start to really focus on that, our brain, we're going to start to train our brain to be on the lookout for it. So not only will it start to increase our confidence because we're bringing it in, but here's the thing, just like working out, we start working out, we're not that strong at first. And we got to be really diligent about getting up and going to the gym. It's not on autopilot. I recently started working out again because I've always worked out my whole life, but I got away from it. I'm like, I need to get back in the gym. And it was really like, okay, I got to get up, set the timer, go to the gym, And now it's just a natural thing again because I'm doing it. Well, the same thing is with the reticular. Is at first you're going to have to train your brain to be on the lookout for. You're like, this is what I want to focus on. But then the brain will start to do it naturally for you. And when you do something cool, it's going to go, look at that win. Look at that awesomeness. Look at this. And like I said about mistakes, those will stop because especially people that are really hard on themselves and have low self-worth or a lot of self-doubt, they lack confidence. It's because they're spending a lot of time thinking about what they're not good at or where the mistake they made or their shame or something like that. So if you can just, if it's like this, you're going to start to do this. Yeah. Okay. Because people look at me, they're like, oh, you're confident. How do you do this? How do you do that? I'm like, I said to my girlfriend this morning, I'm like, if you knew what went on in this noggin, if you knew the badassery. I'm just going to call it that, because I catch my shit in my head. If I start going down that path, I can feel it. I'm like, okay, what am I thinking? And I'll return back to it. But it took time for me to train myself to do this. But now it's a natural thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking
So
a
good.
bit here about awareness, right? It's focusing, journaling, making your list. It's training your brain to focus on what's right in your world, what you've done well. And it helps to shape your identity, because our natural inclination is to give way more weight to what I did wrong and all the negative things. And so somehow that colors our world to think it's much worse than it actually is. But I love this idea that we have this ability to change our perspective, and if we change our perspective, we actually change the world that we live in. Because as I've said almost every broadcast, you create the world that you pay attention to. So this journaling idea, this badass journal, the happy journal, taking notes on your phone, whatever that is, and you might not have to do it at night. Maybe do it as it happens. I better make note of
There you
that,
go.
because I'll forget that it happened, right? And then
Or like you said before, Joe, you would set an alarm on your phone to remind you to do something, and you would name that alarm, think something positive. You could do the same thing in this situation too.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's a habitual thing, and almost any habit that we create it takes time for it to set in, right? To have traction. And so it seems like a lot of work. It seems like effort. It seems like hard at first, but that's because inertia is not on your side yet. Inertia is keeping you where you are. But once you start moving, and then you do it day after day after day, then your brain says, oh, I guess this is the new pattern, right? You've created new neural pathways in your brain, and that becomes the new default. So suddenly it's not so much work. It actually becomes a habit or a system, which is actually required. One of the reasons I think New Year's resolutions generally fail for most people, and I think statistics say by mid-February, most New Year's resolutions have gone by the wayside for most people. I don't know the exact numbers. But I think, and let's get into this, I think this has to do with a couple of things. One, it is a resolution, if it isn't tied to a change in identity and a change in habits and structures and systems, then it's just a wishful thought. It's just a nice idea. And it's pretty easy for most of us to let those go. Okay, that was a great idea. And maybe next year, or maybe another time, or I'll get to it if or when. So I've learned through the stuff I've read and through my own practices that if I don't change the way I view myself, that rather than I want to go work out, I am a person who wants to be healthy, who is healthy, right? It becomes more of an identity shift. And if our belief system says, oh, I don't have to, or that's just a nice idea, then it will just stay a nice idea. It won't become ingrained into our life. So whatever those goals and aspirations and the becoming that we are, unless we are willing and able to start changing the identity, it's not something I do, it's something that I am. Because as Ed Milet says so wonderfully, he says, life doesn't give us what we want. Life gives us who we are. So the changes that are sustainable are the ones that have to do with understanding who I am and what I'm capable of. And then the actions flow out of that understanding, that identity, as opposed to just doing things, hoping that somehow it'll change me. The change got to go from the inside out.
And I think, what you said there about how it sounds like it takes work. I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you think about it, when we use words like train or change, those are all work words for us. To train ourselves, oh man, that's, if you've ever trained a pet, right? You've ever tried to train yourself, that's a lot of work to do. But simply, if you just put a badass list by your bed, or you simply have a badass list on your phone, right? Even if you just record it verbally, that does the training for you. It's that simple. It might take work on one hand, but on the other hand, the work really isn't that difficult. To write down a few things that you did right, that's not a lot of work. To write down 3 sentences, 3 words, that's not a lot of work. It might take some effort up in here to think about that, but once you break that shell, now it becomes a system, and it happens with you naturally. Like Kristen said, all the stuff that goes on inside of her brain, but she's learned how to deal with that stuff. And now it happens, she still has to fight it, but so much more of it happens naturally now than her having to force it. So to train yourself, to change yourself, really is as simple as writing down 3 things a day, 1 thing a day that you did well. It's that simple. Don't you guys agree? I mean, I feel like training is such a big word, but it's not really that difficult to do, to tell yourself that you did something well.
Well, here's the way I look at that. First, I want to go back just real quick to what Joseph was saying about how people set a New Year's resolution and by mid-February it's gone. And what I just want to piggyback on what you're saying and reiterate that, because it's a lot of times we're trying to strong arm it. We're trying to force it. We're trying to make this happen, but the foundation that it's coming from has not changed, because we are in a habitual pattern. We are literally habituated to do it the old way. So it's going to take some time. However, when you do what Joseph was saying, which was actually claim that now I am a person who works out, you have actually start to reset that foundation, rather than I'm a person who hates to work out, but I'm going to force myself to do this because I know I'm supposed to. There's 2 different energies happening there, and that doesn't work for us. What I was going to say about the hard work, as I hear this all the time in the world, and I'm one of those people that kind of, rocks the system a little bit. I kind of ruffle feathers with things because there's a lot of narratives going around that are not true. And it's hard because it will keep people stuck longer. And one of those narratives is the work is hard. Oh, it's hard. It's so hard. I hear this all the time. Like, really? It's really hard to write something down every day? It's really not. Okay, so I'm just calling people out. It's not hard. It's, are you going to do it? Do you want change? Because we are the only person that can change our lives, freaking period. Full stop. We're the only people that can change our lives. So how badly do you want? I keep looking to the side because I'm looking at you guys on the side here. How badly do you want this thing? There's things that I want really badly, and I will do whatever it takes, right? There's things that I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? But I'm not invested in it. So if you want something badly, also know this, the hard part of the hard work, it's just one baby step forward. That's it. It's one baby step forward, and then another baby step, and then another baby step. It's not, you don't have to tackle Rome in a day. And I think that's why people, a lot of times when I'm doing coaching one-on-one with people and they're in a toxic or really bad relationship they need to get out of, getting them to the point where they're going to admit that is the struggle. But I always say, I'm not forcing you to do anything. Just knowing that this is toxic, or knowing that you need a boundary, or knowing that's all the work we're doing today. And it could take them a week, could take them 10 years, not my problem. It's just the one step forward. All we need to do is know that it's just being willing. And right now, some people say, well, all these people telling people they need to take a step forward. You get the choice whether you want to do this. We're not forcing you.
Right.
We're not telling anybody they got to do anything. Okay. You do you, boo, and we love you, and you do you. But if people that are going to be listening to this title, How to Leverage the Past and the Future in the Present, they are wanting more. So we're encouraging you, inviting you to understand that you don't have to build Rome in a day. You don't have to become Arnold Schwarzenegger in a day, muscles. We're just using that as our quick little thing because there's other things people are going to be working on. Just know that all you got to do is just make the decision to do so. Sometimes that's enough work. Just, I'm going to do this. Boom. Right?
Because it's who I am, not just what I do. Yes.
Right. Joe, check out this book I got for Christmas.
Yeah, I love it. Peanuts, be
more like Snoopy. Find your happy dance, it says.
Yes.
And I want to read a thing to it. It's just one page. Each chapter is one page. And they take a cartoon of Charlie Brown, and then they write something over here. And this one is called Choose to Take Control. And Lucy is talking to Linus, her little brother, and she's saying, okay, let's go. Do this, do that, hop to it, all with exclamation points. And Linus replies with, you're right. You would make a good queen. Okay. So then it says, choose to take control, which fits in right with what you guys are talking about. What Kristen just finished talking about. According to Lucy, for every 11 followers born into this world, there is one leader. Be like Lucy. Be that one in a dozen leader and take control. Once you choose a path of power, there are no limits to what you can do. Don't settle for being first lady when you could be president yourself or even queen. Just remember not to let power go to your head. Use it not for your own good, but for the good that you can do. And when you end up having a better year. You end up having a happier year. You end up be more of a badass self. It isn't just about you at this point. Your world gets better. All the people in your world gets better. How's I call it? You raise everyone up to that level. So, like Kristen said, you are in charge. You are in charge of yourself. Don't rely upon, I hope this happens. I'll be happy when this is over. And circumstances are not going to fall your way. They're just, and when they do, they turn on you immediately. But it's not hard to train yourself. All you have to do is write something down or say, no, I am a person who likes to be in shape. I am a person who is kind. Your body hears you say that enough, you become the person that you are actually saying that you are. And we want you all to have a badass year. We do. And that's why we're here doing this, to help you. And honestly, we're listening to our own words. I mean, this stuff is so good for me. Every time I get done recording MDA with you guys, it helps me. And it's the same concept. When I'm in this chat with you, I have to own it more, right? Because I'm in the chat with you. When I'm saying it, I have to own it more. And when we begin to own it, say it, speak it out loud, it changes our year. It changes our perspective.
And one thought that came to mind, very good, Steve, and I love the Snoopy book, of course. Snoopy is my spirit animal, for those of you that don't know. But, the old phrase I've heard many times and is very powerful is that, I think it was Henry Ford said, if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't,
you're right.
You're right.
Right.
You believe you can, or you believe you can't, you're right. And this is really important in this discussion on not only celebrating the victories in the past, which actually can reinforce this idea, hey, I can do it. I have done it, right? And even the battle scars of the past. I brought this up before, but I love that scene in the first movie, Jaws, where the night before the big hunt, they're drinking and they're laughing and they're getting ready, trying to get courage up for the next day. And they start talking about all the scars,
yes.
This is where the piranha bit me, and this is where the shark, got me. Oh yeah, well, that's nothing. And they're showing up the bigger, badder scars. And it's a really funny scene. But I think there's something powerful about that at some point in my life, right, I can look back at the deepest, darkest, most traumatic experiences of my life, and I can pull up my metaphorical shirt and say, guess what? I got bit by a shark, and here I am talking about it.
Yeah.
So I'm tougher than that. Whatever that battle was, whatever that demon was, whatever that abuser was, he didn't kill me, right?
Come on,
didn't
Joe.
kill me. And in fact, made me stronger. Now, does that mean the scar goes away? No, it's still there. But the scars don't define me. They're just a roadmap that says, look how far I've come, right? So this badassery list, this idea of looking at the past to help us in the moment, it can help reframe this narrative in my head that says I can't, because you have.
You have,
right? You're here. You already have.
Yes.
So you can believe that you can because you did.
Yes.
Right? And that can be just enough to propel you into the possibility, right, that I have some power. I've got some grit. I am a badass. I can, if I could survive that, and I come here to talk about it, bring it on, right? Yes, life isn't going to be easy all the time. And I'm so glad it isn't, because you don't grow any muscles if you don't exercise them, if you don't strain them. There actually requires some challenges for us to realize how strong, how powerful we actually are. So look back at the past and celebrate those scars as, look how far I've come. And it doesn't define me. It just says how strong I am.
And even if all you're able to do is to just get out of bed in the morning, that's still surviving. It is still surviving. Yeah, but I'm still so depressed. That's okay. You're depressed, but you won't be as depressed as you work through this whole process. Don't think that you have to raise your hands up in the air every time and say, I am the champion, I'm the victor. No, you don't. If you're still breathing, you're still surviving, you're still making it.
100%. This reminds me of, it's kind of a sad story, but my best friend and her daughter were killed by a drunk driver back some time ago. And her husband was very, very wounded. But the son wasn't. The son had a slight concussion. And so, I'd go and I'd see him, and he was just really doing the things, right? Doing the things and really doing a great job with his son. And one day I said to him, I am so proud of you for all the work you've done. And he looked at me kindly and he said, I didn't have a choice. And I said, yes, you did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, you did. Because that is something, makes me tear up just thinking about it. And on his respect, not, because I lost my friend, but it's just like, that's a Mac daddy and, pain in this life. And he decided, I'm going to still make the best life I possibly can for my son, whereas he could have turned into an alcoholic. He could have been depressed. He could have, Lord knows what, but he did it. And this is the thing, that we have a choice. We have a choice. And I love the word choice. People who listen to me on Wisdom, that is one of my favorite words, because we actually have that, where we can say, do I want to stay this way or do I not? And sometimes, and I do talk to people that are kind of at the lowest low sometimes, because they're the ones that are typically listening to this stuff and looking for this stuff, and they're like, okay, well, but you don't understand. I'm so low. And just like we've reiterated several times here, just making the decision one day is a huge win. Just saying, I'm listening to this today, that's a huge win. Any step in that direction that is just slightly pulling you away from where you were is a powerful win, because you are choosing you.
Yeah. And when we don't do anything, because when we say, I don't have a choice, so I'm not going to do anything, at that moment, you're choosing to not do anything. Quitting is a choice too. So we think, well, I don't have the energy to choose, or what. When we quit, when we give up, that's also a choice. And it takes the same amount of energy to quit as it does to anything else. Yeah, Kristen.
There's Rush lyrics, right? The band Rush. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Yeah.
So no matter what, you're choosing. So choose good. Choose for you.
We've talked a little bit about Viktor Frankl in the past, who wrote A Man's Search for Meaning. So here's a guy in the concentration camp, the worst imaginable circumstances. And he's the one that wrote, between every circumstance, between every stimulus and response, there's a little bit of space right there, a tiny space where we have a choice. What meaning are we going to assign to those circumstances? So as we talk about leveraging the past and the present into the future, I think it is in the now moment is where we make the choices. We don't make the choice. We can't change the past, but we certainly can change the way we see the past and the way we see ourselves, right? Not as a victim, but as a victor, as victorious, as an overcomer, as a survivor, as a thriver. Whatever happened in the past didn't destroy you. You are still here, right? And so this choice, this now moment choice, is to look at the past and to see, what have I accomplished? What have I survived? What have I overcome? Even today, that little list, that's looking backwards to make the now present. You're making the choice right now in this moment to focus in on who you really are, the capabilities that you have, the power that you have to choose. And that's true as looking forward as well, right? So oftentimes we think that the future is just going to happen and we are at the mercy of fate, right? Whatever happens, happens. If you believe that actually will happen to you, right? But if you believe that in every now moment you have a choice onto whether you're going to respond in a hurtful, harmful, hateful way towards yourself or to others, or you're going to see every moment as an opportunity to exercise compassion, grace, gratitude, love, right? That is the choice every moment. Is it always easy? No, but as we're trying to help us understand, by making those choices over and over and over again, we actually create a pathway so that it becomes more natural, it becomes less resistant, right? We're taking away the natural resistance, so that becomes a flow. People are always searching for the flow state. Well, the flow state is partly what you create by rewiring your brain, by doing the hard things up front. It actually becomes easier down the road. That's true of every aspect of life. Even learning to walk, at first it's falling, but it's learning how to control your falls and catch yourself and then take that next step. Walking alone is a controlled series of falls. So fall and catch, imbalance and balance. That's the process of life. And believe that you can, so that you will.
And I think a perspective too is, Louis L'Amour said, Western author Louis L'Amour said, it's not the end of the trail that's the thing, it's a trail itself. And so we can get sidetracked, like Kristen was saying earlier, was saying, I haven't gotten anywhere. Because we keep looking, we don't think I'll be happy when I attain this. When this is over, I can't wait for this to be over. I'll be happy when this is over. I'll be happy when I can finally, right? And we see it as a goal that we can reach this state. But once we reach this state, there's going to be a whole nother level for us to go to. It's like when people say, how was work today? Oh, I got so much work to do. Well, that means you have a reason to go back in the office tomorrow. That's awesome. You got more work to do, right? The same is true with us when we're bettering ourselves, instead of saying, because when we tend to have that perspective, all we see is where we aren't. We don't tend to look behind us and see where, like Kristen was trying to get her clients to see how far you've come. But it's the journey itself. It's not attaining something, it's becoming something. And so it's every day we get a little bit better. And the very fact that I still am wounded, that's cool. That gives me a reason to wake up tomorrow and work on my woundedness, because I'm not as wounded as I used to be. And when I see it as a process, I feel so much better about myself. I'm like, wow, who I want to be, that's what I'm aiming for. But it's a process. It's not, I'm going to get there someday, because I don't know if we ever really truly attain it. We're just always getting better.
Two things. One, we talk about this a lot, but grace and forgiveness along the path is paramount. It's required. Okay, this is not an option, because when we understand that we are fallible, that we're going to make mistakes, that we're actually designed that way. This was so freeing to me, because I had a little bit of perfectionism in my 20s. And when I realized, wait a minute, I can never be perfect. And who am I being perfect for? Because it's only my idea of perfection. So if I'm trying to be perfect for Stevo or Mojo, I don't know what their idea of perfection is. So it's only what I'm doing. Okay. So it's the grace along the way. It's like, oh, I make mistakes, and that's okay. And I'm never going to get it exactly right, or I may not get it exactly right. That's better language. Then that's okay. And I can reset, and I can go back, and I can try something different. I can try again. Here's what I know for sure. This is crazy. First of all, life is really, maybe you guys can help me with a better word. I was going to say resilient, forgiving, understanding. It bounces back. Like, it's not one and done. So we make a mistake. It's like, well, that's done. You can never do that again, right? It's kind of like unconditional love of a family member who makes a mistake. We still love them, right? And that's how life is for us. Life doesn't go, well, shit, they made a mistake, I'm done. Okay, we're done with Kristen. We're going to move on to the next person. Because it's like Joseph often refers to as the universe as our daddy or our father, this unconditional love of source. And that is what it is mistakes don't matter. They're built into the architecture of our life. They're supposed to be that way so that we can learn as we go. If we didn't have them, we couldn't learn. So don't think that any mistake, large or small, means you are one and done. It's over with. The universe absorbs that. It's self-correcting and self-organizing, and it's going to put you back on path. Like, it's a neutral, loving universe. It's not going, you made a mistake, you suck, I'm done with you. It's saying, okay, where are you going now? What's your next level of energy? You noticed you made a mistake, now you're course correcting. Okay, I'm going to meet you at course correcting. So that's to me, a beautiful thing. And so giving ourselves grace and just saying, oh, look at me, little silly, I call us teeny tiny baby humans. That's what I call us. So, oh, look at me, I'm a silly, teeny tiny baby toddler human. Okay, just made another little toddler mistake. Okay, move on.
Right. Well said.
Yeah, I think what has been touched on already is this idea of comparison being the thief of joy. And Steve already talked about this year have to be better than next year. Says who? No, and quite honestly, if we're going to try to map out all of 2024, I just want everybody to keep in mind that research says that we overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can do in 3 to 5 years. I've heard this from some of the great teachers. And I just want to dig into that for just a second, is that as we look to the future, one, it's not a comparison. Is it better or worse than the last? It is, as Steve would say, it is what it is. So now I have the opportunity in this moment, in this year, in 2024, to face it with gratitude for how far I've come, the opportunity to live and breathe and move and do what I do and be who I am, and the grace that Kristen talked about, the forgiveness and understanding, and realizing that a mistake, as our friend Lois Hampton would say, is a missed take, just like in a movie. Okay, got that scene wrong, take 2, take
like
3,
that.
take 400. It's
Yeah.
every missed take is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to course correct, and then to move on. So as we move into 2024, I just want to encourage everybody to look beyond just 1 year at a time and compare it to the year before or after, and say, what's the big picture? You know, back yourself out like a drone and view yourself from as high up as you can, rather than get stuck in the minutia, to say, what's the trajectory on it? Yes, life is never in a straight line. It goes in crazy ways, and sometimes it's circular and sometimes it's backwards, but we've come this far. And where could we go? How far could we go? And dream big. So there's this 2-word phrases that I love, and I put it in the chat earlier, and it's dream big, start small, act now, and don't quit. Dream big, start small, act now, and don't quit. And
Where's that from again? Where's that from?
I got 3 of the 4 phrases from Robin Sharma, the first 3, and I added "don't quit," which is really from Winston Churchill. When you're going through hell, keep going, right? So dream big, start small, act now, and don't quit. And I tell myself this every day. This is one of those things that Stevo mentioned. I put in my phone so the alarm goes off and reminds me, because my mind won't go there unless I force it to. Hey, Joe, dream big, start small, act now, and don't quit. And I think this is a great way. This is a great reminder and an easy framework to look to the future and realize that success is really just a sustained series of small, simple steps in the direction of your desires, right? Success is a series of small, simple steps in the direction of your desires. So it's a matter of consistency and course correction, as we've talked about, and belief that I can because I have, and that God, source, universe has our back. Actually, our daddy, right? Our heavenly daddy wants us to succeed. Just like when my kids were learning to walk, as Kristen said, when they fell the first time, I didn't say, well, I guess walking isn't for you. I'll move on to the next kid. Right. I said, hang on to my fingers, right? Hang on to my fingers until you get your balance. And then once they let go and they start running, I didn't say, no, I'm sorry, you have to hang on to my fingers all the time. I say, go kids, go. You know, then they're jumping and they're running, they're flying, and I'm rejoicing, just like our Heavenly Father does, rejoicing at the fact that now we believe that we can walk, we can jump, we can run. Does that mean we're not going to trip over a hurdle? Sometimes I fall down the stairs or up the stairs. I mean, more often than I care to admit. Do I stop walking? No, I laugh at myself, right? And I say, there I go again. All right, let's pick up your feet a little, Joe, right? Dust yourself off, or jump up as I do sometimes. I go, ta-da, yeah, here I am, just in my humanity. But I don't quit just because I made a mistake.
And it takes us back to what Kristen was saying earlier. That's what Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong here, Kristen, but what I heard you saying was celebrate those little things that you do well. Pat yourself on the back for the little things that you've done.
Everything.
And that's where success comes from.
Yeah, there was a question on the Wisdom app. There was, one of those cute questions people ask, and they said, how do you celebrate your wins? Or I don't remember the exact question, but it was something like that. And that was my answer. I said, I celebrate all of them. Yeah. All of them. I mean, like, I got up on time today. Right on. Awesome job. I took a shower today because, I work from home, you guys. A shower for a woman is not the same as a man. There's a lot of conditioner and shaving and things and blow drying and all this. So I'm like, yay, shower today. And I don't mean that in some weird way. But, I've been cooking meals at home, every single thing. I'm like, wow, look at us go, and it feels so much better to celebrate all those instead of, for crying out loud, looking at that future and going, well, I'm not there. Yeah. How about right now? This is all about presence. Joy, happiness is in the presence. So if we are in the future, we are in anxiety. If we are in the past, we are in depression. Okay. We're not going to feel comfortable. That's a struggle. I don't like to struggle. I don't like that feeling. And I'm speaking from a place now, from a person who's done the work, who's consistently done the work, who fell and got back up and fell and got back up and steps forward and steps back and those type of things. But I know now, because I did all the trial and error, I did it all for everybody to know that if I really want to have a peaceful life, a happy life, a joyful life, live from my highest self, then I need to celebrate myself all along. I celebrate things other people do too. Like there could be a conversation with me and Stevo on a text. I'm like, right on, you know. I sent something to you guys. I don't remember what it was, but I sent you. Oh, I remember what it was. I sent you a little win. And I just said, and you guys were like, yeah, right on, kick ass. And I said, I'm so grateful that I have people that I can celebrate these little wins with because they're so incredibly important. So if you do, great, celebrate it with people. If you got those cheerleaders in your life, if you don't really need them because you got you.
So good. Yeah. So we've got just a couple of minutes here to finish off, and can't tell you how grateful I am for the two of you, because as Stevo mentioned earlier in this broadcast, the fact that we're going to be on changes my mindset, changes my focus. Okay, what are we going to talk about? What do I have to contribute? What am I going to learn from Kristen and Stevo? And so what Kristen just said is so important, that sometimes it's hard for me to celebrate my wins because I don't see them. I've got these own blinders, my filters that says that I didn't do anything worth celebrating. And then I get a text or a call or somebody from Steve or Kristen or other friends of mine in my life that say, hey, great job. You did a great job on this or that. And I'm like, I did? And so what I've had to learn, and I encourage everybody to do, is rather than push that off and say, no, I didn't, I don't deserve that, whatever, which is like that false humility, say, thank you. Thank you. And then receive that and write it down in that happy journal, in that badass journal. Say, hey, I didn't even see it, but somebody else saw that I did or said something that made a difference in somebody else's life. And again, these are simple things.
And even if you don't believe them, even if you agree with them, just saying thank you, that's the start of receiving that.
Yeah,
maybe you can't receive that. Maybe you're like, they're full of it. They don't know what they're talking about. They have no idea how bad I am. But you force yourself to say thank you. Your own self hears yourself say thank you. And that's a step. That's a partial. Even if you don't believe it, say thank you anyway. And that opens up yourself to start believing that and receiving that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just give yourself the opportunity to say, what if they actually are right? What if they see something that I don't see? What if there's a possibility I'm doing something well? Because you got to open yourself to the possibility. Because again, if you believe you are, or you believe you're not, you're going to prove yourself right one way or the other. So this has been a beautiful conversation. Went way too fast. I can't believe we've passed an hour already. One of the things we didn't touch on, which maybe we'll save for the next broadcast, is what to let go of. We've talked about things to bring into our lives. Yeah. But I think we'll talk at length next time about what are the things that we remove from our lives so that we can go faster and have less baggage, right? Less ballast, so that we can sail our shores. So tune in next week or in a podcast soon, we talk about what to let go of. So on behalf of Kristen Brown and Stevo Hays, I'm Joseph MoJOE McCarthy. Thank you so much for tuning in, either live or after the fact. Thank you to all of the guests today that put their comments in the chat. That was so great. Great to hear you, to see you, have your participation. And so as you celebrate the 2023 that's about to go to bed, don't forget to write down all the things you can think of that you did well, all the victories, big or small. So I'm going to close with this little song I wrote for the
I want to say one thing first.
Please do.
Anybody who's listening on Wisdom and you would prefer to see us as we give this and communicate with us in the chat, you can follow one of our YouTube channels. Mine is at Kristen Brown. And then I'm going to have to go. I won't be able to listen to your song because I have people waiting for me. But I'm at Kristen Brown, and then you. That way people can see us if they want to.
Right. All right. Well, Happy New Year, Kristen Brown. So great to have you in my life.
Bye, guys. Much love.
You as well.
Appreciate you.
Steve, what's the best place for people to get a hold of you?
They can go to Steve. Well, actually, the easiest way would just be to go to happylife.studio.
Happylife.studio.
You can find all my links are there.
Yeah, for me, it's mojo.studio. So Cecilia Grace, who's in our chat, who did the kudos, one day after doing this many times in a row, the little song came to mind. I guess I called what do you call it, the ditties or a theme song?
Ditty, jingle
for kudos. And it goes like this. Every day is a great day to celebrate you. Yeah, every day is a great day to celebrate you. Celebrate your victories, great or small. Celebrate your wins, celebrate them all. Every day is a great day to celebrate you.
Right on. You are awesome. You are amazing. And I'm not just talking to Joe here. I'm talking to you who are listening or watching this right now. Whether you hear it from anybody or not does not change the fact you are an amazing human being, and you're incredible, and there's no one else like you. And it takes courage for you to keep doing what you're doing. And let's have a badass year, huh?
Right on. Yep. Progress comes in small, simple steps. So just keep on keeping on, my friends. And as you say goodnight to 2023 and open the door to 2024, believe in the possibilities, believe in yourself, believe in a God, a universe who loves you and wants what's best for you. Until next time, this is Joe,
Next time.
Steve, and Kristen Brown. We'll talk to you soon. Peace out. Happy New Year, everyone.